Spain are World Cup champions for the second time in history. Did Argentina sully their reputation on the global stage? And what are your key takeaways from World Cup 2026? That and much more on today's edition of Morning Kick Around. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick Around, the program that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. How you doing? Hope you're well. My name, Robert Kerr, local soccer guy, and to my side, Jason Davis. He got through the marathon tournament. There he is. How you feeling, Jason?
I'm good. It is the day after. This is going to be a hell of a letdown. The hangover is going to be intense, Rob, after that World Cup that we just lived through. What 5 weeks or so we had in America with the World Cup. Not all of it was perfect, right? Not all of it was lovely and wonderful, and there were a couple of things that brought us down. But in general, man, what an experience we had at the World Cup, or watching this happen on American soil. And now we get to talk about what it all means for us after we, of course, relive it and celebrate and talk about what Spain did to Argentina yesterday.
Yeah, we're going to work through that final, what it was yesterday, and then get into some stats and some facts, but also work through our feelings a little bit. 104 games over the last 5 weeks or so. For the footy lovers, it was an absolute buffet, a gluttony of soccer over this past 5 weeks or so. So plenty to break down, and definitely an adjustment period for all of us if we don't have the next great World Cup game to look forward to in our daily schedule. But as we start the morning after World Cup 2026, we already have some things to be thankful for. Look at that. We already got gift memberships and plenty of channel members saying hello.
Yeah, I see that Mr. Bob doing his thing, always does good by us. And then Dwayne hooking it up as well. 10 memberships out the door right away. I hope those are all grabbed. If you are a new Ultra, that's what we call our members. You get access to the Discord. We'll put the Discord link on the website, on the YouTube channel, rather. There'll be a post there with the Discord link. And make sure you're participating in the community, checking on the bonus videos, which we will be making. Now the World Cup is over. And there will be some other things happening in personal lives, but we should be able to make some more bonus content here. I know, Rob, we got to get back to talking about some things that are percolating in American soccer. Maybe have gone quiet for a bit, trying to dig into what's going on there. I want to say hi to all of our ultras this morning, everybody who's jumped in. I'm sorry, I'm pushing comments. Jax first through the door, so number 1 points for Jax this morning, commenting on the game yesterday. What an awful game we had to watch. We'll talk about it. I may have a different appreciation of that game than a lot of people, but I understand why most of the opinion is going to be that it was pretty bad to watch. Matt is here. Kate is here. Maximum Mango. You can never have enough mango. We've got Luis in the building as well. Homeless Shoe. Let's see. Leandering is here. My guy, Shrimper Steve, in the afternoon over there in the UK. Dwayne, of course, already hooking up the memberships. Bill Barrett is here. Arribas Las Chivas is here. John Stark is here. Tosa Mario, buenos días. Tosa Mario, ¿cómo estás? Let's see. Cool Will is the coolest. Let's see. I'm scanning. Chris is here. FC Neo Tokyo, my guy in Chicago. Armando, I say hi to Armando. I don't remember if I did. Nate is here. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate all of you. And if you're, obviously we're saying hi to the Ultras. If you're in the room and you're chatting it up, thank you very much for coming by and for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're approaching 10,000 subscribers on Morning Kick Around, which would be a great milestone for us. We're also like a couple thousand views away from 1 million total on the channel, which I don't know. I don't know if that's like a real big milestone in the world of YouTube, Rob. We're not out here like measuring ourselves against other channels. We just know for a little American soccer channel, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely 1 million views is going to be clang-worthy, and hopefully we reach that by the time we are live once more. But yeah, that 10,000 mark would be absolutely huge for us. Big, a number to hang your hat on, if it will. But there is another comment by Nate, which I might need a little explaining. It's stuck in my crowd. What does cortisol maxing game mean? I guess I need to know what cortisol does.
I hear about cortisol a lot from my wife. I'm not quite sure I understand it. She's always talking about how you do certain things and it raises your cortisol, and cortisol is what makes you fat. So it's according to a quick Google search, it's the body's primary steroid hormone produced by adrenal glands. So it's the stress hormone. And if you get stressed, your cortisol goes up, and then that if your cortisol is high, then that's bad. I don't know. Hey, stress hormone, Arribas Las Chivas has the info. So, there we go.
So stress plus stress eating equals not good things for humanity. And so
Don't
thank
get
goodness it's all
stressed.
over.
Don't get stressed is what we're saying in general. Yeah.
All right, and before we get into it, we already highlighted the benefits of becoming a channel member, ways to support. I mean, free to subscribe, and I really do want to hit that 10K mark. So tell a friend. If you're watching and you haven't hit the subscribe button, just do it now. Let's get to that 10K mark. So when we get back into covering the American soccer landscape in a more dedicated fashion, there's a whole lot of stuff going on in USL. Or maybe not going on. MLS is back. They're doing a whole lot of things. So there's a whole lot to cover domestically. And I'd love to get to that 10K mark to expand our reach and to talk about all the dots that will soon to be added to the American soccer landscape. All right. Are we ready to talk World Cup and wrap this whole thing up?
Let's go.
All right. Let's kick it all off. Monday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Let's do it. It is the morning after World Cup 2026's big finale. So let you guys know that World Cup coverage here on Morning Kick Round is brought to you by Oakland County FC, thanking supporters who made the 10th season of summer soccer bleeding purple in Southeast Michigan a special one in 2026. Check out OCFC socials and YouTube for tons of great shoulder content and information for end of season activities. All right, we witnessed our 104th World Cup game yesterday, and it surely was an eventful one, not very similar to that third place game. We saw 10 goals, but it was just one, the difference between Spain and Argentina yesterday, and what a fascinating mix between styles and attitudes it was. We saw in the open of the show some people kind of grinding their teeth, didn't enjoy the game, but that mix of oil and water was fascinating for some of us to watch.
Yeah, I didn't watch the third place game. I guess I missed out on.
It was 10 goals. It was when high level players don't have as much motivation to play defense, I think.
No, yeah, I was an all-star game, right? That's kind of what it was. I thought it was going to kind of be that, and I did check in a couple of times on Saturday just to see. I saw it was 4-0. I think maybe Anthony Gordon or somebody scored a fourth just before halftime, and I was like, oh, okay.
I turned it on at halftime.
Osaka. It was Bukayo Osaka. Yeah, then obviously I checked later. I was like, 6-4. Oh, sacre bleu, or whatever they would say in France for that. I don't know. Obviously England getting third place, I guess some mild consolation for the way things ended for them against Argentina. But yeah, the show was yesterday. The show was the final. I didn't know I was going to be working on the radio for the final until Saturday. Got word that I was going to be doing post game for the World Cup final, and I was always going to watch it, right? But it added an extra professional element for me, and I think maybe because of that, I watched it with the desire to appreciate how Spain goes about their business.
Yeah.
Now, I saw, we had Jax, who was the first comment of the day, say, what a terrible game, basically. And I even soccer sickos would say there wasn't a lot going on in that game to be entertaining, at least until we got to the drama and, the end of the match and extra time and everything else. And obviously red cards and fighting and all that stuff. And yet I do think we should appreciate Spain. Like, I do think we should recognize how incredible what they do is. It's defense. Defense is not always sexy, but it's not defense. They're not, obviously there's multiple ways to be defensive.
Oh, yeah.
In this sport of soccer, in the sport that we love. One of the ways is to do what England did against Argentina, which was basically just put 10 guys in the box try to clog up all the lanes and hope you're going to survive.
And was that successful?
Give up a late header off a right-footed cross from Lionel Messi to Lautaro Martinez. That's not what Spain does. Spain uses their superior technical ability to eat the clock, right? It's like again, I keep going back to Bill Parcells because I'm an old person, but it's that ball control. It's offense in the service of defense, right? Because if you have the ball, technically you're the offensive team, right? You are a team that if you have the ball, like in every sport except baseball, if you have the ball, you're on offense. And the way Spain uses the ball is to play defense. Now, of course, they're looking for goals, but they're just not overly risky when they do that, right? They choose their moments. They look for their opportunities. The other thing that they do so well, and this is the culmination of what has been the tactical revolution of the last maybe 15 or 20 years. You go back to Pep, you talk about Marcelo Bielsa, you talk about the things that have happened in world football in terms of tactics. What Spain does better than anybody, they've perfected is winning the ball after losing the ball. Like, just make it simple. I'm not going to call it a repress or, again, Gengen pressing. You can talk about all that. It's simply if they give the ball away, if they're in possession of the ball and they give the ball away, they recover the ball almost immediately. And if they don't recover the ball, they are so aware of their positioning and their understanding of how to limit what the opponent can do once the opponent gets the ball, that they don't give up those transition opportunities that would have them lose the game at the hands of, say, France or Argentina.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Anytime there was a half of a moment where it looked like, oh, Argentina can spring a counterattack in those limited moments when they had the ball, the positioning and the awareness of the danger was always there. Spain was never caught out or surprised throughout any of the game. And I was actually surprised to a degree. They did park the bus more than I thought in those last couple minutes when they were hanging on to a degree to Spain. Like Argentina did eventually
that's because
it was possession defense.
That's because Argentina is broken as a team, and we saw them do this throughout the tournament, especially in the knockout phase, right? It was kind of like, oh, we're in trouble now, we'll turn it on. And for whatever reason, Argentina needed that danger in order to feel spurred on to go and push the game. And it's not like Argentina doesn't have good players. I'm not just talking about Lionel Messi, right? They have very good players all over the field. And we'll talk about some of the shenanigans and antics and just the insanity of Argentina here in a second. But the thing that I think everybody needs to appreciate is that whatever Spain's quality is, Argentina's got quality. And if Argentina suddenly decides they want to play, they can put pressure on you. Now, Spain, again, just sucked the life out of the game for the most part in the way that they went about their business. And again, Argentina either wasn't motivated to really push and leave themselves open to potentially giving up a goal to Spain. And, again, you look at Lionel Messi. At one point, I'm talking to my kid. I'm talking to Thiago. He's 5 years old. He's starting to understand a little bit more about the game. He knows who Messi is. I've talked a lot about Messi. And I'm telling him, like, watch Messi. Watch Messi look for space. He doesn't run. Messi doesn't run. He looks for space by walking between the lines, by popping. Like, he'll just kind of like meander. Oh, here I am. Oh, look, I've got 8 yards of space. I've got an opportunity to receive the ball. How many times was Argentina able to get Lionel Messi the ball when Messi was in those spaces? Very few times, if at all. Like, I think the shot that clocked who got hit in the face? Was it Moreno that got hit in the face? The shot that hammered Mikel Merino in the face is about the only thing Lionel Messi did on the day. It's about the only thing he did. Right? So
and he called for a red card unjustifiably.
Messi also got frustrated at the end of the game. He's not a perfect human being by any stretch of the imagination. Let's not pretend otherwise. But I just thought it was fascinating. Again, I think if you appreciate what Spain does, it was an incredible example of how good they are at what they do. And they don't need Lamine Yamal to go play hero ball, right? They don't need that. They have a way to and they were so confident. Like with people, I got guys texting me. My friends are texting me like, oh, in fact, let me read it. I'm going to put my guy Luke on blast a little bit. I love Luke. He's a great guy. He's a Portugal fan, but you don't hold that against him. He said, great control to boss the game, but they need to score. It means nothing. We're talking about Spain. And I said back to him, like, they feel comfortable. They were never uncomfortable. Spain was never, even when Argentina was doing the brutality elements that they have made part of their game in this World Cup, or has been part of Argentina football for a long time, but obviously came to the fore in this tournament with the way that they played. I don't think Spain was ever uncomfortable. I think Spain always knew they would get their goal. Now, I'm sure they didn't want to go to extra time.
No.
To find it. I'm sure they didn't want to, but I don't think they ever felt like, oh, we're going to lose this game. And I just want to go back to the goal. Like, Ferran Torres scores the goal. But that goal is obviously made through a couple of other things, including the cross that finds Nico Williams past the back post. And the genius of Nico Williams to say, what's my move here? Oh, I'm going to literally head the ball backwards into the path of Ferran Torres because he knew that there was a pocket of space where Ferran Torres had popped up. Go back and watch the goal again if you don't recall exactly how it played out or you can't visualize it. Nico Williams,
he made it.
He made that goal. And again, that was an example of a player who was maybe supposed to be more central to whatever Spain was going to do in this World Cup, limited by injuries, forced into a subs role. Alex Baena took over for him. He comes on and he makes a contribution, and that was a team that won the World Cup. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, team is the right word. And just going into the game, it was going to be a fascinating study if the emotion and the passion and the kind of the huge swings that Argentina would take to, do their thing, keep everything neutral, and then push hard at the end, would that be neutralized by Spain's metronomic unit of just keeping the ball away and being able to play their game and basically suffocating out games like how they did? Like Spain made France and all the other teams they came across in the World Cup look ordinary. They were never trailing at a single moment in this entire tournament, 7 shutouts, defense by possession. And it was fascinating. And I was really curious going into that. How are these styles, like I said at the top, oil and water? Would Spain be able to, possess and suffocate Argentina out? And I thought they would be able through the majority of the game. And obviously they did. But when it came to that crunch time at the end, would Spain have the wherewithal and the ability to maintain that and weather the storm that all the other teams that Argentina played and faltered? That faltered to Argentina. Would Spain be able to do it? And they did, because they were just so well drilled, so within themselves, and so comfortable in what they were doing. And then going into the tournament, obviously Spain was the Spanish or the European champions, and in that European Championship, they played largely the same way, but they were a little bit more dynamic with having both Yamal and Nico Williams available. But it was wild that the late introduction, the subs role that Nico Williams eventually did play, and he had a fraction of what he could have done if healthy, obviously, but he gets that goal that's disallowed, and we can argue till the sun comes up on whether that first Spanish goal should not have counted or even been a thing. But then, you said, to get his head on that and head that straight back, as he was like, I think he got some contact from the Argentine defender, and he was like flying through the air when he nodded that back to Ferran Torres. And it was wild, just wild to see that, how, like, I don't know if there's some poetry in that, but like the player that was absent for large parts plays that huge key. And really, I think his addition and his speed was able to soak up a lot of that late Argentine pressure, because Argentina did get into that mode, but he was able to chase down those booted balls, because Spain did get to the point of just dumping and clearing at a point.
Yeah.
But Williams was able to catch up to that. And the question that I had, just in summary of Argentina, the way they played the tournament, obviously Spain was great, but Argentina, you talked about it. They obviously have good players. They have lots of sporting and football ability. What would it have looked like if Argentina actually tried to play on the front foot and play ball the whole time? Like, did they not have the ability to go toe to toe with teams and win? Do they have to play it like this?
I mean, I think that is a team that is so dependent on Messi and so deferential to Lionel Messi. And this is what everybody's talking about today, right? The end comes in the World Cup in the final. And I do think, like, for all of the hate that Argentina is getting today, and a lot of it is deserved, I'm not going to pretend otherwise, and we'll come to this. Leandro Paredes needs a long ban. Okay, that man needs to be
Jeez.
banned from international football for a long time. But for all the hate that they're getting, it is pretty remarkable. I know everybody wants to point to the easy path that Argentina had to the final, compared to Spain, who had to knock off France, and they had to beat Portugal, had to beat Belgium, right? Spain's path seemed more difficult. Who did Argentina beat? Argentina beat, obviously, we had the Cabo Verde game, which was an incredible match. My match of the tournament by a long, long stretch. One of the most incredible sporting events I've ever witnessed in my life. Obviously, the Egypt game, and you could argue Egypt got robbed in that game because of the VAR call. Then you've got the Switzerland game, which takes extra time, and they put an exclamation point on it with the breakaway goal from Lautaro Martinez. Yeah, there's the red card from Embolo, which changed that game. Like, so many things broke in Argentina's way, and yet they still had to overcome, right? I still think they deserve credit as a team for fighting through. Now, of course, the way they handled themselves, the way they behaved, and I have less of an issue with the in-game stuff, right? Like, I know there was a complaint about a punch in the back of the head against England. There were some off-the-ball things. They were aggressive. They basically dared referees to make calls. Yeah. But that's why the referee exists, okay? And I'm not saying that I wouldn't like Argentina to play more gentlemanly, or whatever word we want to use for that, Rob. I would prefer that. They would be easier to root for if you want to be on Messi's side because he is the GOAT, right? But I have less of a problem with the in-game stuff than I do with the after-game stuff. Like yesterday, the way that they lost, being sore losers, getting into fights, turning their back on Spain, refusing to acknowledge the worthiness of Spain as champions, which is undeniable, right? Lionel Scaloni tried to pull some of it back. He tried to be the bigger man in that moment, but again, Paredes and Enzo Fernandez with the antics he engaged in, Valentin Barco and what he did against England after the winner there, like those things are disgusting, and those things are why now. And like, Argentina was already a villain if you ask people who really pay attention, or certainly if you're English, they're a villain. But now the whole world has turned on Argentina. The entire world is united in their hatred of the Argentine national team. They won't care, which I think is, that's kind of par for the course. Like,
it's part of the feeling.
Raiders fans do not give a shit that you think Raiders fans are terrible people. They lean into that, right? So again, like, this Argentina team is unique. But again, I think maybe we appreciate Spain more because of Argentina. And I said this yesterday, Rob. It is wild to me that a team that treated scoring goals like it was a chore they had to check off a list, and I'm talking about Spain, is the hero of the story against, in a World Cup final, in a World Cup, simply because they were up against the bastards of Argentina. Like, if Argentina didn't act like that, we might be talking about how boring Spain is rather than how wonderful they are.
Well, their passing and movement and positioning is just truly a delight. And I was trying to soak up as much as I could that yesterday. Oh, harsh on Raiders fans. They've moved that team around so many times that they tried to sweep Raiders fans. It's just some of the most authentic American sports culture.
It's just it runs through the blood. I'm a born and raised Broncos fan, so I can't help myself. Sorry,
you're a Bronco Bob. That's fair. That's fair. But I really enjoyed the Spanish team. I remember back to someone in the comments said 2010 Spain champions versus 2026 Spain champions. Who's greater than that? It's hard to say, but they just worked so well, and just the technical prowess and be able to pass and dribble out of any sort of situation, almost any player on the field.
We have yet to say the word Rodri. We should say the word Rodri because he's a guy, like, again, so important to Manchester City finally scaling the mountaintop and winning the Champions League title that evaded them. And I don't love the sports washing part of Manchester City, okay? And we can, like, obviously that's not cool, and we don't love that. But obviously, Rodri was so important to Pep's team and winning that title. Then he gets hurt. He wins the Ballon d'Or. Then he gets hurt. And then we're kind of like, oh, okay, I guess that's it for Rodri. It's over for him. He was a great player, but he's not going to ever be that again. He is that again. He is that. Somebody called him a unicorn in the chat. Rodri's a unicorn. Absolutely. 100%. And I asked yesterday because it came up, and I see Nate is saying that Spain in 2010 was better, a better midfield, right? So we have Xavi, we have Xavi, we have Busquets,
Iniesta.
we have Iniesta. Now I asked Eric Winalda, Rodri or Busquets, and he picked Rodri. Would you take
Why
Rodri
was
over
it?
Busquets?
I mean, Rodri provides a little bit more mobility. I don't know if his passing is quite the same as Busquets.
I think that's the only thing Busquets has on Rodri is his passing ability. And if you value that, of course, right? Maybe you put Busquets over Rodri. Rodri is a more physical player by a large margin over Busquets. And he can also pass, and he can also dribble out of trouble, and he also reads the game as well as anybody on the planet. So, yeah, we may have to elevate. Now, maybe there's recency bias there, but we also have this thing where we kind of elevate the 2010 team because they're all retired and because, yeah, they achieved that. And the passage of time makes you reminisce. And, how good was Andres Iniesta? How good was Xavi Hernandez? How good was Xabi Alonso? How good was Sergio Busquets? Like, they were good. They were great. And they did great things together in that Spanish team, and some of them did great things with Barcelona, but maybe we need to be honest and fair and put Rodri in that mix.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's fair to put him in that mix. And all the Spanish players were super impressive. You couldn't really pick anyone out, at least not yesterday. That was like a weak linker anyway. They were such a cohesive unit and knew where each other were. And it was almost, you have to pinch yourself to remember that these guys are only together for specific times, as international teams are for everybody, that a lot of the time for many countries, the team tactics are limited because they're only together a certain amount of times. But you wouldn't say that about the Spanish. That looked like a well-drilled team that knew everything inside and out. And there wasn't any shortcutcomings that I could see.
They didn't have they grew into the tournament, right? They had the draw against Cabo Verde. Then, as we said, they had 7 shutouts. The only goal they gave up was to who, Rob? Can you remember the goal?
I can't even remember.
It was De Ketelaere bullying Kubarsi on a cross, and Belgium scored against Spain. That's the only goal they conceded the entire tournament. 1 goal. And this is, again, sort of historically. And maybe the 48-team tournament, you think it's diluted or whatever, they still faced off against some top quality teams in this tournament. Obviously,
and in a tournament where there was almost 3 goals a game, them only giving up 1 in 8 matches against any opponent is crazy.
They set a record for fewest goals conceded in a World Cup, and they did it in 1 more game than they set a record for fewest goals conceded in a World Cup, and obviously won the tournament, which means they did it in 8 games. It used to be 7 games, now it's 8 because of the extra round in the knockout phase. And Spain again is top of the mountain. Like, as much as we want to talk about individual quality and Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets were better, and therefore David Villa. Like, imagine this team with David Villa.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they didn't have that
because they didn't have it, right? As much as I liked Mikel Oyarzabal, and he was a good player and he scored goals. I think he's had 5 goals in this tournament overall. But you saw what Del Bosque had to do, or sorry, De La Fuente, my Spanish coaches, that's 2010. De La Fuente had to do in this game to find the goal. Like, he at least understood I need to change the game to find the goal. And that's why Nico Williams was on the field. It's why Ferran Torres was on the field to score the goal. Both of those guys were substitutes. And Oyarzabal came off because he doesn't have the dynamism. He had made a mistake. There was an opportunity, and he did not play in. I can't remember who he failed to play in, but he had an opportunity to play somebody in, held the ball up, dribbled himself into trouble, gave up the opportunity. And I think at that point, De La Fuente was like, okay, we need an attacking quality addition, because Oyarzabal does so many things off the ball. He is so important to the cohesion of the team when they set out that first 11, but he's not by no means, right? Fernando Torres, perfect, right? Good example of an actual number 9 that Spain does not have, right? And again, limited Nico Williams, who was important in 2024. Lamine Yamal, not asked, 19 years old, a European champion, a world champion, not asked to do as much, mainly playing as a decoy, not without somebody on the other side to threaten, kind of forced to be the lone guy. And then when you have that much attention, it obviously creates a situation where it's really tough. He had a couple of big moments in this tournament where I think he understood and read the game. I think he was also probably still playing hurt because he entered the tournament with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, and in the back half of the show today, we're gonna, recall and review the tournament on whole. So definitely think of your favorite moments of the tournament and some of the things that's going to stand out to you the most. But before we move on from yesterday, who would you say were the biggest perpetrators on Argentina that really sullied themselves the most? Because we listed Enzo Martinez. I'm really curious how he's going to be welcomed back into England from not only yesterday, but his post-game and post-goal scoring antics against England. I think he wasn't like the most popular player at Chelsea anyway, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think he really kind of stepped on any sort of goodwill that he might have in England. So I'm not even sure if he's going to be able to go back to Chelsea. I'm very curious to that. So we have Enzo Fernandez or Enzo, I forgot Enzo. We'll just leave it that way. Paredes. I mean, while you were saying he needs to face a ban. And then we're talking about Simeone was up there as well.
That post game scenario. I mean, I think mostly again the in game stuff. Enzo Fernandez rightfully sent off for a second yellow card after going in late on Kubarsi. Simeone had a couple of moments in there. He tried to buy a foul by literally stopping on a long ball over the top with Cucurella chasing him down. Tried to buy a charge essentially.
If you make Cucurella a sympathetic character, you're really going.
I mean, Cucurella rides a line, but he has never been as bad as some of what we saw from Argentina. Like I don't think he's ever, he's annoying and he will do things to get under the skin of his opponent. But again, it's the extra physicality, the extra willingness to do things that might injure your opponent that I think is the problem here. That's why people are so upset about Argentina today. And again, I want to be clear that I think there are some things about the way Argentina plays that are within the game. And I think they're actually, you can chalk them up to cultural differences. And I'm not trying to give Argentina a pass. But the physicality has always been a part of South American football.
For sure.
Right? There are people who will tell you that you go watch Copa Libertadores specifically for that, because it is intense in a way, it is physical in a way, it is old school football in a way that most of European football is not anymore, right? Because it's gotten a little softer. It's gotten a little more protect the players. It's gotten a little like you can barely breathe on somebody in Spain without a whistle being blown, right? So, and that's not Argentine football. That's not South American football. And so I think it's okay for them to have a different style. And I think it was I can't remember which Argentine figure. Maybe it was Batistuta who said something during this tournament. I don't know when he said it, but Gabriel Batistuta, famous Argentine player, he said there was always this allegation, this contention that Argentina didn't play in a way that connected with the people of Argentina, right? Which is what international football is. Now, sometimes I think that we make these things up. Yeah. We kind of reverse engineer these things like, oh, the Germans play this way. Well, that's because they're German. And it's like, yeah, is it? I mean, the footballing culture obviously informs exactly how your national team plays, especially if your players are all born and raised in that culture. And that's true of Argentina, except for Messi leaving at 12. These players are all born and raised in the game in Argentina. So they come by it naturally. And I think that, you can call it dirty. Again, you can call it dirty. It puts pressure on the referee to call the game in a way that will punish that. And until players are told you can't do that, they're going to try to get away with it. And I think some of that is, again, part of what makes this game magical, the distinct nature, way of teams playing and how they do it. And Batistuta said the previous contention was that Argentina didn't play in a way that connected with the people, but now they play with heart. So for Batistuta, he's saying that the way Argentina played in this tournament was to play with the Argentine heart. Now, if you want to cast aspersions and blast an entire footballing culture because Batistuta is identifying this as Argentine, as truly Argentine, that's fine. That's fair. Right? But let's be careful about how judgy we get. It's the sore loser stuff. It's the inability to respect your opponent after the game, after you've been in that battle for 90 or 120 minutes. That bothers me. That is the part that goes beyond the pale, the part that you're talking about. Like, it's Paredes for me. He was bad in the game. Don't get me wrong. He came on to do thuggish things in the game almost immediately.
Yeah, he got a
And
yellow card within his first like 5 minutes, right?
He's like shoving players all over the place, knocking guys down. It's like, what do you, he clearly was brought on, or he has thought his job was to rattle Spain, and he didn't manage to do it because Spain won the game. And then he is in that aftermath, right? And afterwards, he's not letting it go. Now, again, if you're in the battle and you're saying, I'm trying to get an edge, okay, fine, you beat me. We're done here. It's not like Argentina got robbed. Right? It's not like there was a moment when the referee didn't give a call to Argentina that could have changed the game. Not really, unless you really want to, go over the top with we got screwed because what? Simeone didn't get a foul when he slammed into Cucurella. Whatever. I mean, a couple of moments here or there that are like small things. Messi asking for the red card on Cucurella for the mouth covering thing. Like, guys, stop being petty, because then you will absolutely have nobody backing you. Absolutely not. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's Paredes number 1, Enzo Fernandez number 2, Giuliano Simeone number 3. Was it Montiel who threw a punch at Rodri or threw an arm at Rodri as Rodri was running by in the aftermath? Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. Tagliafico wasn't an angel. Alexis McAllister is kind of he was kind
under
of a
the
bastard.
radar.
But he doesn't even stand out that much. Yeah, he did his own fair share, but he didn't stand out that much. I have a special place in my heart for Julian Alvarez because I know there are other Atleti players. Simeone's an Atleti player, and I don't like him today. I don't know that Julian Alvarez was guilty of anything, but maybe he did, right? Maybe he was part of this too. Somehow Dibu Martinez didn't get involved enough to get, even though he's the craziest of the bunch by most people's estimation. I don't know. It was wild.
Yeah, I was curious if the Spanish goalie would do the what was the gesture that Martinez did with the golden gloves thing? It's like, would any Spanish player dare to do such a thing, or even in front of him? But no. And then just one final note after Spanish win 1-0, I was going to say is referees. Hopefully he got hazard pay for that game, because so much was asked of the referee, and that just putting every single thing on the referee and just is psychological battle on the referee. Hopefully he got a little extra. Any of the the refs for the Argentina games definitely had their work cut out for them. So that's the final, all signed, sealed, and delivered. 1-0 in favor of Spain after extra time. Ferran Torres with the winner, Spanish team, the champions. And stay with us here in the back half of the show. We're going to review the highs and lows of the tournament in general and get some of your perspective on it. So stick with us here the morning after the World Cup 2026 concludes. Stick with us here on Morning Kick Around. World Cup 2026 is over. 104 matches, 308 goals, and finally crowned Spain the champions after a historic defensive effort, only conceding once in 8 games. But we want to talk about what are some of your lasting memories here, short-term memory. What are the things that stands out in a 5-week buffet of international football?
Yeah, let's get our ultras and the people in the chat. In fact, we'll make a special dispensation. Even if you're not an ultra today, you've got something from the tournament you want us to talk about, you want to remember, you want to go back to, throw it up, and we'll get everybody on screen that we can here on a Monday, the day after the World Cup final. I mean, that's kind of going to be my solace here for this thing ending, because I love the world. It's my favorite thing outside of my kids, my wife. It's my favorite thing in the world. And it's because it's every 4 years that it's special. It's because it's hard to get to that it's special. It's because it's difficult to win that it's special. It's because for a lot of things. Now, this was 48 teams. It was the biggest ever. I didn't know if that was going to make it better or worse. I think it made it better. I think it did. I don't know if I want to go any higher than 48, Rob. But I think it did. I think it made it better for me. I think the size of the tournament, as much as it was almost too much at the beginning with all the group stage matches on top of one another, I had so many good memories from this tournament.
Yeah, it was a gluttony of football, especially hot and heavy at the beginning, with the group stage having more games than any other tournament had in total before we even got to the knockouts. Was just crazy in general. If there was any tweaks, a little bit more stakes in how it was set up to where the too many third place teams got through, in my opinion. But I love other teams being able to get in. And ultimately, we didn't see an upset that reached the end of the tournament, but we saw plenty of interesting moments and plenty of teams have their moment. I think almost every team, you could maybe only pick out a couple that just had a bad outing all the way. Like Iraq did not have a good time at the World Cup because obviously they were in the group of death. There actually was a group of death, and they got it.
Yeah.
Uruguay, and they were creatures of their own destruction. They were probably one of the few teams that straight up had a bad World Cup. Iran, for a completely different set of reasons, had a bad World Cup outside of their control. And that's probably one of the biggest stains.
Let's pause there for a second. Let's pause there for a second. Absolutely atrocious, horrendous, disgusting, the way that Iran was treated in this World Cup and what they had to go through. And they should be so proud of what they managed to achieve, right? The fact and then like, to extend this whatever the conflict is, right? And I have my opinions about that conflict. Imagine a lot of people in the chat do. Imagine you do, Rob. I mean, we have opinions about the conflict, and maybe that it's hard to separate from the tournament for some of us. Whatever your opinions on the conflict, if you're having a sporting event that is meant to bring the world together, if you have agreed to host the World Cup, then you should treat everybody the same. Everybody should have the opportunity to compete fairly at the World Cup. And our government, the American government, chose not to give Iran the opportunity to compete fairly at the World Cup.
Not an even playing field. Not everyone, with so many cities and teams, not everyone has the same experience, but they, did not have.
They were given so many obstacles to be able to achieve anything and to compete fairly at this World Cup. And yeah, you're right. Some teams had to travel more, heat and weather and those kind of things, were altitude were a factor in Mexico, especially. But it was extra for Iran. They had to play with weights, right? They were wearing a body vest with like 20 pounds of whatever it is people do when they jog, insane people when they run. That they were, I don't know what I'm, this was like the labors of Hercules kind of stuff. Like you got to, or Greek mythology, who is it that pushes the rock up the hill? Like it's every time it's just nuts how they were treated. So I'm glad that you mentioned Iran. Let me go into the chat here, Rob, and see what we can pull out here. Yeah. Jack says the 48 teams was a win. I definitely agree with Jax on that particular point. This is Kate. Aloy Room breaking or tying Tim Howard's save record. Can't remember if he did. I think he did, right? I think maybe he just tied it. We have to go back and look at that. That was certainly a big story with Curacao making the tournament and doing fairly well. Maybe not Cabo Verde did well. Cabo Verde was the story of the tournament for a lot of people. And again, pointed out earlier and worth mentioning here, the only team that was not beaten over 90 minutes by Argentina or Spain.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And everyone thought at the beginning that, Spain's not very good if they couldn't score against Cabo Verde. But here you go.
There we go. Well, we learned to appreciate Spain's approach, which is the number of goals doesn't matter if you don't give up any, right? As long as you just score one over under 20 minutes and you can advance. Argentina against Cabo Verde, as I said, was my highlight. That was incredible. In fact, at some point, we should do a bonus watch along or something for that, because I'll watch it like I've never seen it before. It's that good. It's incredible.
I experienced that game in a unique way as well, because I'm all mixed up in local soccer here, and that game was at the same time as an OCFC away game, and so we got to watch the first half from a bar, and then there was a thunderstorm struck, which delayed the start of the OCFC game, so we got to see the majority of the rest of the game due to the delay. And then once we were at the stadium, the PA announcer was updating the crowd on the Cabo Verde Argentina game. It's like, and then the final goal was, who scored an Argentina win, and a crowd of just completely unrelated people booed that Argentina scored when the PA announcer.
That's the thing. The people's champion, Cabo Verde, the people's champion. And we all learned so much about that little group of islands off the coast of Africa. You and I learned more I think that most people, because we were visiting people from Cabo Verde in the community up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, but we
which is
also got,
wild.
I watched the world kind of go, oh, what the heck is a Cabo Verde? Let's see. What stands out for me, says a homeless shoe, was the Japanese guy who discovered bottomless tortilla chips. Also, the way the soccer really did get popular here. Obviously, like the fans, there were a couple of fake fans and some astroturfing things happening. I think that German guy turned out to be astroturfed. I don't think he was legitimately exploring America and learning about it for the first time. I think that was
Like
kind
the
of
guy that was going to like backwoods Virginia and going camping and stuff like that. That was
no,
around.
I don't know about backwoods Virginia. This is a guy like Lenny or something, and it was like, oh my God, Waffle House is amazing, or whatever it was, and it was like, oh, he's been posting about American stuff for years. It's just he's acting like all this stuff is new to him. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Country Roads, says American Groundhopper. I had fun with it. I mean,
That
I don't
first
know.
game, I think they tried to hop on it a little bit too strong. But after the Australia game in Seattle, that first time hearing it,
That
that
was
was a
cool.
special moment.
That was cool. When the whole, I mean, it had already taken on a life, and then it comes to the fore after the Australia victory, and obviously then, the Bosnia game and stuff like that. I mean, I don't want to make this too American focused. I want to go whole tournament, but obviously the way things played out with Balogun, not great. In fact, Riverside Grove is saying that there is a Trump curse on the U.S. game against Belgium. Sure, let's say it was the curse and not the way the U.S. wasn't ready at all to play in that game. Let's say that.
Just to talk about, since it was brought up, I was gonna let that be, but I really do think that the outside meddling did mess up the mojo of the United States men's national team, because going into that game, there was 4 or 5 days of USA and Belgium's preparation that they were preparing to do it without their number 9, right? They're without Flo Balogun. And then I almost think they might have had a chip on their shoulder. The injustice is a huge motivator, right? Even Argentina was using injustice, even they were getting the benefit out throughout most of the tournament. But they took, by rewarding falsely or strangely, rewarding them with the return of Balogun, almost took away that chip on their shoulder. And then everyone was talking about that, became the story rather than preparing for the game. And then that just added fuel to the bellies of a Belgium team that had only just squeaked through to get to that game. And if you mess with motivation with outside elements, and I think that's part of, who knows if it's all of it, that's part of why that American performance versus Belgium was no good.
If you listen to the last episode of the Best Soccer Show, that's one of the other things I do. I do too many things. One of the other things I do is the Best Soccer Show. I ended up doing a solo episode last week, and I talked about Balogun going on CBS Mornings, talked to Gail King and all those people about. It was such a weird setup because you had some non-soccer people asking questions about soccer things and about the game, and Balogun basically said, "Yeah, it was weird. Like I knew it was going to have an impact, and it clearly did. And even though he later on tried to play it off." Absolutely, he did. All right. Soccer Night Detroit says my favorite was the Tartan Army. Norway supporters are right up there as well. Those were the two fan bases that really captured attention, I think. By the way, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that I think the English fully enjoyed their trip to Mexico. I don't know if it would have been the same had they lost that game, but it seemed like Mexican football culture was kind of brought to the English and some European eyes that didn't fully appreciate how much Mexico bleeds the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was one of the games at the tournament too. England, Mexico down there at the Azteca. See, Matt says, hi, disgrace of Gijon Redux. That is Algeria and Austria. Late goals by both teams to preserve the tie. Yeah, I forgot about that as a thing. I forgot about that thing. Unity among people was a big high, says Angus. Shout out to Angus, who wasn't here when I said hi to everybody this morning. Let's see. Might as well go to 64 teams to avoid third place teams advancing. Gosh, damn it. I don't know. I don't want it. It's too big. We're doing a 5-country or some nonsense like that World Cup next time in 2030.
Yeah, that's basically to call dibs to where basically the amount of regions that the World Cup could go to next is extremely limited. It's like funneling the amount of applicants to World Cups.
Well, yeah, it's kind of all manipulated, so it has to be an Asian team, an Asian country, and another Asian country is going to be Saudi Arabia, who wants to sports wash with the World Cup in 2034. I know, we all get brought down as much as we enjoyed this incredible month and change of football.
There's always a actually.
There's always a actually. And also, I think it means like Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay are going to automatically qualify for the World Cup because they're hosting at least a game. And then you obviously have Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. Now, I still love the World Cup. I'm still going to look forward to it. My wife, while this World Cup was happening, and she's a planner, and she may not be the biggest football person, but she does like traveling. She said, we're starting to plan for World Cup 2030. And I was like, all right, let's go. I'm all in. Let's go. Let's go to Spain. Let's go to Morocco. Let's go to Portugal. I don't think she wants to do the South American leg, because I think she wants to do the European side.
That would be great. That's a
African
great
side.
goal. Great goal. I said I was going to save up for this one, and it didn't happen. So hopefully
Yeah,
I'll be a
it's
little
tough.
bit more deliberate about
And
2030.
look, I know a lot of people made it out, and I've heard some people talk about their experiences and how much they enjoyed it. And I know some people got decent prices on tickets. I did not. I was working radio all summer. It was really tough for me to figure out, hey, when can I travel from where I am, because there's no games in DC, to Philly or whatever, and I never got it together. My kid being 5 means I think it's just a little early, but when he's 9, I'll try to take him. It's just not going to be in my country, which is obviously feels like a missed opportunity. High point from John Stark, Cabo Verde, Cape Verde advancing. Low point, the Orange Maniac embarrassing us yet again on the world stage. It's not something we've talked about from the final yesterday, Rob, but that person that John rather is talking about did wander into the photo after being part of the trophy celebration, which we knew he was going to be. That was always talked about. But you saw there's a picture out there. Okay, there's a couple pictures. One, he's standing right next to Spain as the team celebrates, looking completely out of place, looking like he has no idea why he's
He
there.
almost looked photoshopped into that rather than
he does look photoshopped in. Then Spain took him out of their photos that they posted on social media to celebrate, which of course they should do. And then there's a photo of like buckets of confetti falling on him and Infantino while they're sort of to the side, and it looks like Infantino is explaining to him, no, you cannot be part of these celebrations. That's for the team. We're over here, which is interesting. Let's see. Pure Silver says the USA support after the Paraguay win was the best I've ever seen. Top 16 for all the host countries too. Yeah, all the host countries making it into the knockout phase was, I think, good. I think they all had that expectation. Credit to Canada. Let's talk about Canada. I don't love Jesse Marsh's antics sometimes, Rob. First ever World Cup win in this tournament for Canada. That's definitely something worth pointing out. And again, making the knockout phase, even if they didn't win their group.
Yeah, all 3 host countries making it to the same point, the same round of the tournament. I'm curious which team would think that was the biggest achievement. Obviously, I think Mexico was probably disappointed to go out where they are. Obviously, the performance more than anything was a disappointing end for the USA in that round. Canada kind of getting outclassed a bit by Morocco on their way out. I'm curious which one could be measured of any more successful than the other, but a huge step forward for Canada getting their first World Cup win and their first advancement out of the group. So big achievements for Canada, even though it didn't end the way that they probably wanted to. I'm curious who could consider themselves, advance their own program more out of the 3. And I'll say to that Paraguay point, I think one of my moments of the tournament, it's hard to kind of coalesce it down to one, but my favorite moment that I had the most in my soul sort of reaction was Gio Reyna's goal in that opening game. I just involuntarily put my hand over my head, the outside of the right, but last kick of the game, that is something I absolutely savor. That was amazing.
Yeah, I hope that, if we talk about an American perspective on this, if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, and I am, the U.S. men's national team is my entry point to falling back in love with soccer, right? And just, I'll keep it short. But it was, my origin in the game was in 1985, 1986. Right, I was a little kid. I was 5, 6, 7 years old. Soccer was everywhere in terms of a participation sport. I was living in Northwest Louisiana, and believe it or not, there was a very vibrant youth soccer scene in Northwest Louisiana at the time. I think there probably still is. It's not too far from Dallas. There's lots of those youth tournaments in the region, and I loved playing. I loved it. I had a team. My neighbors and we would go out and play. We would kick the ball around, like we want kids to do in America, like they do in a lot of other places. And then, but there was nothing for me to aspire to. I wasn't aware. I wasn't, the access to the top level of the game wasn't there. I was a baseball kid because I could see baseball every single day of my life, and especially in the summer when I have this free time, I'm watching baseball and I'm seeing all these incredible baseball players that I want to be like. I had, my family had passed down American football to me. I had heroes in American football. I could watch them on Sundays in the fall. I didn't have heroes in soccer. I knew about Pele. I knew about Maradona, but they were not figures in my life that I aspire. I didn't think I could be like that. It never occurred to me that I could be like them, Rob. I was an American kid who played for fun. That's it. And then I moved, and my parents signed me up for a team, and it was terrible, and the coach was bad, and I didn't like the kids, and I quit. I didn't really think about soccer too much for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years of my life. And it was mostly like, if I did touch down on soccer, it was like, oh, that FIFA video game is fun. That's cool. Oh, that guy Batistuta plays in Italy. He's fun. That's how I knew who Batistuta was because of FIFA, right? I knew about clubs because of I knew who Juve was because of FIFA. I knew about Manchester United because of FIFA. And I didn't really think too much about being a fan of the game. And then the World Cup comes around, not in 94. I wasn't paying attention. I was an idiot in 94. I don't even remember. I was probably moving because I was a military brat. I was probably moving that summer. That's also the summer of OJ and all this other stuff. The 2002 World Cup, when I'm in my 20s at this point, the 2002 World Cup comes around. The U.S. goes on a run to the quarterfinal. It's happening in the middle of the night, and I'm an idiot who stays out too late anyway. I'm watching games. This is incredible. The Americans are good at soccer. I'm totally in. I love this thing again. And over the next couple of years, as I'm sort of moving into my 20s, I meet the person I eventually got married to. My first wife, not married to her anymore. But I discover Fox Sports World or Fox Soccer Channel or whatever. Now I'm watching Premier League games. I'm like, this is great. Can we get this here? Can we sing songs like this in the stands and terraces in America? Can I play it? Can we have good? And Beckham's coming in 07 or whatever that was. Oh, okay. This is interesting. MLS. I'm watching this MLS thing a little bit more. And then I was like, well, I care about this too much. I got to write about it. I got to blog about it. I got to podcast about it. And then we can do a Seinfeld, yada, yada, yada. Here I am today. Right. But that's because of this, right? Because of the U.S. men's national team. And this tournament is the best it's ever been. The best it's ever been. I mean, I 02 will always have a special place in my heart. But this is the best it's ever been. We won multiple games at a World Cup. That seemed impossible before. And people want to diminish that. Whatever. Stop comparing us to England. Stop comparing us to France or Spain. We're not there. I want to be there, but we're not there. We should appreciate this, the joy we can take out of this without diminishing it. I want people to do that, Rob. I hope they did. I hope we enjoy that Paraguay win as much as it deserves to be enjoyed. The win over Australia, the win over Bosnia, right? Yes, it's disappointing the way it ended, but man, there were some really good moments here.
Yeah, it was a hell of a ride while it lasted, indeed. And yeah, 3 wins in a World Cup. Hadn't done that before. Great steps forward, yet disappointing, a whimper of a conclusion, but you can't diminish the steps along the way. And you're saying the best it's ever been. And look how far they came and how well they played. But it also was a little bit of a coming to earth moment. If you looked at that game yesterday or even the semifinals, and when people that are the pie in the sky, why can't USA, win the World Cup or whatever? It's like eventually the United States will, if they are to win the World Cup, they are going to have to overcome one of those final 4, final 6 teams.
Yeah, of course.
And how many levels between where they are in the final 16
and that's the thing,
final 4 is huge.
We have to stop beating ourselves because we care so much, because soccer engenders passion. We get in our feelings and we feel bad about it. And then we have an inferiority complex, and we let the way that some of the other, the rest of the world, some of the other major soccer countries view American soccer, looking down at us. We let that limit our enjoyment. Stop that. Let that go. If English people want to make fun of American soccer, let them do it. Go ahead.
That's fine. We have enough of, I think we have enough of our own to stand on our own feet, where in the past we didn't really have anything to grab on, probably.
Because we're American, it's really hard for us to let go of this idea that we have to be the best right now, that we have to shortcut this and jump to the top of the line. It's going to take a long time if we ever get there. And I don't think you should view your enjoyment of this sport solely through the idea of us being the best at it, as if you can't fully enjoy it because we're not the best, because we don't have the best domestic league, or because we don't have the best men's national team. That's not there. How many countries can win the World Cup? Only 8 of them have done it, right?
My son
So
was blown away by that stat.
everybody else has to find enjoyment by not being a world champion, right? Everybody else has to find a way to appreciate and love this game without letting the fact they haven't won a world championship diminish their joy, right? They're not the people in even in Italy, right? They're crushed by the fact they missed the World Cup for the third straight time. Crushed by that. They're not going to stop loving their version of the sport or thinking that it's amazing and enjoyable and the passion. They're not looking at themselves and going, well, I guess our soccer fandom is not good enough. Shut up. It's I don't know, that I want people to take that away from this experience. Like, it's the journey. It's not just the destination. It's the journey that we're on. I hate to be a cliche and a poster on a wall in the dentist's office, but that's what this is. Like, it's going to take us generations if we ever get there. And if we do, if the United States men's national team, obviously the women's game is different and the path has been different, and I hope we win next summer, and we'll be covering it.
Yep.
If the U.S. men's national team ever wins a World Cup, we will be the first national team to win a World Cup without this game of soccer, the sport of football, ballon-pied, calcio, whatever you want to call it, foosball, without it being our national game.
Yeah.
The 8 countries that have won the World Cup, it is their national game. Now, I gave Thiago a ball the second he could stand up, right? Because I love this sport. That's not how American culture is.
Yeah, how many of his peers have that?
Exactly. So a lot of them will. The numbers game means that we have as many kids playing as many of these soccer obsessed nations, but that culture is irreplaceable. That thing that the second you know what the game is, you dream of playing it at the top level. That's what I had for baseball, Rob. That was my driving passion for baseball. I wanted to be hitting home runs in the World Series. Now, obviously I didn't get there, but it drove me to keep playing and keep playing and keep playing until they told me, no, you're not good enough. You can't play anymore. And then I stopped and became an adult. That's how soccer is in every one of the countries that has won the World Cup. You get a ball when you can stand up. And then every day of your life, until they tell you you can't play anymore, you are trying to win the World Cup. You trying to play for first Boca Juniors and then Barcelona, trying to win the champ. Like, that's something that's irreplaceable as a driving force of how good you are at the national team level.
So a great example of that in that World Cup final yesterday was in the end of regulation. I think it was injury time or high 80th minute. Lamine Yamal had a moment to free kick, edge of the box. He hits that into the back of the net. He wins the World Cup for his home country. And that's that same moment. You were dreaming of hitting a home run in the World Series or bases loaded, 2 out, full count, that whole thing. And does that dream go from that bases loaded thing, or, free kick or penalty to win the World Cup? And it's like, what is that dream for everyone out there?
At the same time, right? And I don't remember exactly how my parents responded to my obsession about being a baseball player and a pro and all that stuff. I, as a parent, and maybe it's because I'm a little older than my parents were when I was that age. My parents were in their mid-20s when I was 5 years and 6 years old when I was discovering sports. I'm 40 something. I'm 40. I'll be 47 in October, and I have a 5-year-old. Right? My oldest one didn't care about sports at all, and I let him go off and do his own thing. Thiago very much loves sports. He loves playing. He takes every opportunity to go outside and kick the ball. He wants to score goals. Now, he's a kid. He's just having fun. But he's like, Papa, can you come be the goalkeeper so I can score? Like, oh, yeah, let's go outside. Let's play. He has a ball. He dribbles his ball to school. I talk about that all the time. How intense do I want to be as the parent of a kid who loves the game?
It's a tough decision. It really is. It's like, do you get on top of him and give him pointers here and there and everywhere, and it motivates him to get better, or you kill his passion if dad's always got his 2 cents about what I'm doing?
That's definitely a question in a balance. But it's also like, oh, let's say that he is 8 and 9 and he gets identified, and they're like, hey, we want to put you in this academy. We want you to put you on this path. In this country, there might still be a balance between school and developing the person. That might mean that we never reach our full potential, by the way, if we're not so intense on the football factory element of it that we demand kids play, being a grinder every day, because in
Tyler
some
Adams'
countries,
family
that's
drove
what
him
they're
like
doing.
hours a day to training, right?
Yeah, and that's it. See, that's a sacrifice. Glenn Dempsey driving hours to get to Dallas because he didn't have, like, hopefully that's not a thing when Thiago gets to that point. But again, do I want my kid to be solely focused on being a footballer, that if he gets to 18, he doesn't have anything else? And it's at the end of it, like, if he doesn't sign a pro contract, now what does he do? And even if he's been given an education, even if he's been given an opportunity to be a whole well-rounded person, if that's been his dream and it gets taken away from him, have I done good as a parent? Have I done good as a
It's one of
parent?
those heavy things of parenthood. That's
If
just
they
one
say,
element of it.
"Hey, somehow through my wife's family or something, or through my Irish great grandparents or something, oh, you get a passport, a European passport, and I can move him." Because he told me yesterday, he said, "Papa, I want to play for Spain." I was like, "Well, we got to move to Spain. I guess we got to move to Spain, and you got to become Spanish, because you can't be playing for Spain if you're not Spanish." Let's say it happens, like the Christian Pulisic golden ticket thing. I call that
Yeah.
golden ticket because it's the way you get access to European development environments if you have a European passport. Let's say Thiago gets one. Are we moving to Spain when he's 12? Am I doing a Messi? Am I imagining my kid on that path? Am I putting him in an academy where the whole purpose is to develop him into a professional soccer player? And then again, the chances he becomes one are small. They're higher once he gets into that program, but now my life is changing. His life is changing. Everything becomes about that. The whole intense purpose of his life is to play football, to play soccer. That's a big thing. It's a big thing.
And that changes the whole perspective of it. It's a fun thing I do on the side compared to my family is turning their life upside down for me to do this thing, and that's a whole nother
So let
world.
me bring this in again. We made
Moratorium.
we're suspending our rule about only ultras getting on screen today. So because I do want to talk about this a little bit. So it says this is a comment. Parents are the thing most important factor to develop youth level to a standard that can handle the demands of the world game. Not the technical skill, we have that, but the ruthless intensity.
Ruthlessness. Yeah. Are you putting everything, your whole soul, your whole body into?
Do I want my kid to be in a ruthlessly intense environment? Do I want to be party to him being pushed in a ruthlessly intense way? Because that comment is absolutely right in the sense that if we want to compete with Spain, France, England, all those countries, Germany, we would have to accept that that's the way of that this is. Like the thing that we get away with. And by the way, it's ruthlessly intense at certain levels in amateur basketball, in teenage kids playing like that's ruthlessly intense, but it's intense in a different kind of way because it's not about competing internationally or going to Europe. It's about making the NBA, right? It's about the internal environment here in America. But that's our sport, right? It kind of it developed on its own to be ruthlessly intense that way. Soccer is not our sport, not at least originally. We didn't develop our own way of doing it, and then that turned out to be the best way. We're trying to catch up to everybody else. So we would have to fundamentally change our mindset, right? I hear Ronaldo talk all the time that one of our biggest problems in American youth soccer in terms of developing players is that too many players who don't deserve to be there are given spots in top level academies because we're too nice or because they pay or whatever it is, like whatever the reason is. We're not culling the herd and getting rid of the weakest links to make our top level talent better because we don't have that culture. Do we want that culture?
Yeah, we have to ratchet up a notch. And I've even heard, not even on the academy levels where people are paying, I've even heard that at the high school levels, like, oh, their parents are huge boosters of our high school soccer program. So that's not even at the highest levels. You see those sort of relationships and those blurring of the lines. I spent 1 year as a travel soccer coach, not a high level at all whatsoever, but I felt myself stuck in between of, am I pushing these kids hard to coach, or am I a customer service representative? Like, these are the guys that paid in for this experience. I have to manicure it or curate it in a way to where not only the kids are happy, but the parents are happy. And then you'll see at those most rough and tumble competitive levels, that's the essence of coaching. You are literally picking someone over another person. Some are going to be happy. Some are going to be upset. It is a ruthless job. And when you get to those hyper competitive levels, it is cutthroat. And I don't know if we're there yet on multiple reasons, but money being a
Yeah,
huge
and look,
one.
I do think it's a trap to spend too much time on the intangible things because you simply can't measure them. It's not to say they don't matter. It's not to say that, intensity, whatever that means, or toughness or fight or attitude isn't a major part of this. I mean, again, you could argue that those things basically carried Argentina to a World Cup final they had no business being in,
Yeah, and
right?
then we should also not look over crowd support. They had the home crowd essentially everywhere they went as well.
Yeah, yeah, that passion carried them as well. Sure. I mean, again, like I guess my whole point is that some of this stuff is unknowable, and I'm kind of comfortable with it being unknowable. Like, I don't know that we need to be chasing answers all the time. And again, it's also about what the end game is here, what the idea, what the goal is. If you want to sacrifice everything on the altar of winning a World Cup, okay, then everything is fair game, right? The whole mentality, the intensity, calling the herd of players, being ruthless about things, treating players, because it's a numbers game, treating players as just that, right? Like young players, I mean, the kids, not as individuals to be brought along with care and compassion, or making a person who, when they get to that point, whether they want to play pro or not, is going to have a full enriching life. Like, if we just want to be like, and again, maybe I'm being a little too binary here. It's not always bad, I'm sure, in those academies. But if we want to be the top of the mountain, if we want to be the best soccer playing nation in the world, you kind of have to emulate the best soccer playing nations in the world. And for all of the Lamine Yamals, for all the Rodris, there are thousands of kids in Spain who never make it.
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's like, oh, well, who cares? I guess you could take that attitude. Some of them probably are fine having not made it. But it still creates it creates a question of whether or not you have some ethical issues in front of you, because those will come up. Like, whether you want to ignore them or treat them like they're not important, or whatever, that's just that element of the process is just, you have to accept it. You have to be willing to take on the fact that some of these kids aren't going to make it, and they're going to have terrible, they're going to have bad results because of it, or you're going to have to be super intense to the point of maybe even scarring some of these kids, because that's what it takes to make professionals. Like, I don't love that's all that stuff is tough, man. It's tough.
It sure is. We've gone a little bit over time today, but there's one comment here that I wanted to bring in. That was a decent summary of something I was talking about earlier, of which host countries could feel the best about their exit at the same point. Matt saying losing in that round of 16, Canada overachieving, Mexico underachieving, and the U.S. was right where they were. That's kind of a general statement, but hard to argue against that in general. And I
Yeah,
think
in
that's a
terms of
decent,
what their soccer cultures, what the soccer
what the,
cultures have delivered and what they
yeah.
are at this point. Absolutely. I think the fact that the US has established itself as a top 20 men's soccer nation is respectable, if not incredible. Like, obviously, you have to say, like, could do a little bit better than that. Obviously, anything worse would be a disappointment. Mexico is the most underachieving soccer culture on the planet, period. Period.
No doubt. Yeah, and I was talking about that with my son as we were watching the England Mexico. It was like Mexico, they had the man advantage for half an hour, and England wasn't even trying to play forward. But Mexico unable to be creative enough, and even subbed out their most creative players, and weren't able to break that down. And that was almost a calcification of their underachievement. If their ability on the field matched the passion and the culture there, they should be able to figure out a way to score that one goal against England when England was not able
Yeah,
to play their
exactly.
game.
Yeah. Felt it was very disappointing from that perspective. All right. I see the conversation is still going. I love this stuff, so I'm glad we were able to get into some of these big things. But what a World Cup! What a World Cup!
What a World Cup indeed, Marcus Rose. Don't worry, Mexico's getting rid of Pro Rel, so that'll solve the problems with World Cup voting.
Actually, I think Mexico is bringing back Pro Rel shortly, but
Yeah?
we'll have to keep an eye on that. Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
And we should note that we will both be absent from Wednesday's schedule. So our next live edition of Morning Kick Around will come on Friday. And I'm pretty sure we'll be resuming our assignment of dotting the map of the American soccer landscape. There's a lot to talk about, what's happening, what isn't happening with the USL and Pro Rel and all that. The big changes in Major League Soccer that are coming, and everywhere in between, as we return our focus a bit on the domestic game and all the things that are happening. And one final note, I want to say, can we put to bed the America needs to catch up? All those other countries are going at the same speed and rate, and their experience at time as well. They're advancing just like anyone else, right? So is it impossible for USA to catch up? I think it
impossible. No, I don't think it's impossible. I don't think so. I think it's complicated in a way that people don't appreciate. That's all I would say. That doesn't mean that you don't tackle the problem, that you don't come at it. And I see the discussion about, again, how we kind of treat youth sports and youth players and developing players and developing people and all that stuff. If we are doing this in a modern context and we don't want to be the kind of soccer nation that chews kids up and spits them out in order to make our top level players so we can win a World Cup one day, well, then it's going to be a little bit more complicated. We're going to have to care for players and people as we try to develop players. And maybe, I don't like the idea that these things are mutually exclusive, that you can't have a ruthlessness and a desire to win and top level talent if you are caring for people on some level, if you're not leaving kids on the side of the road when they're done in your academy because they're not good enough. And again, I know I'm painting a very dark picture. That's not always the case, even in Europe, but I just think if we're going to try to do this, we have to be very clear-eyed about what the challenge is.
All right, guys, thank you for chipping in on this conversation, and we will be back on Friday. So until then, everybody be brave, stay safe, and enjoy your soccer.